Next item is staffing summary, minimum course enrollment approval, starting on approximately page 147.
Okay, just to provide a brief history, and it's ironic that the student brought some of this up tonight, but when I first started as your superintendent 5 years ago, and we were significantly running a deficit budget, one of the things we looked at were our personnel costs, and we had reduced the number of FTEs based on some classes that were running with significantly small class sizes, and had some interventions in place where we were using full-time certified staff, and in order to help us balance the budget, we had to eliminate some of those things. So what we put in place was the board passed a policy so that any course that had less than 20 students, the Board of Education would need to approve. Now, this is just based on this course selection process. Obviously, some numbers can change if a student conflicts out, or what I mean by conflict out, if a kid signs up for, let's say, band and honors German, and both of them are only offered one time during the day, the kid can't be in both of those classes, so they will have to choose which one they want to take. Sometimes the numbers of those classes will fluctuate based on kids adding or dropping from those classes. Kristen's provided a detailed staffing report for you and a class report, as well as what we anticipate our class sizes to be, and broken down by core classes, non-core classes, gym classes, etc. So I'll let Kristen get into that, but the four main courses that we need to approve tonight from the board are Exploring Tech, Pre-Algebra, AP Calculus, and German 1. And I think there was a question submitted on Pre-Algebra, and that's for students that enroll that need significant interventions in math. So we have to offer that course as a special intervention course prior to them being able to take algebra.
And during this discussion, is there a increase or decrease of teachers proposed for next year?
There's an increase, so we are proposing at the max we should be increasing by up of 4.04 new teachers, and at the minimum we would anticipate 3.5. We have about a 0.5 that we still need to move around and be prepared for some transfers and some balance issues.
And didn't we increase last year?
We've increased the last 3 or 4 years. The first year we had to make the cuts to help get the balanced budget, and then what we started to do is attack core classes, math, English, and science at the freshman level. Then we went sophomore level. This year we'll be addressing the junior level courses, and we'll need to do one more year to address the senior courses. And Kristen will be able to go into all that as she goes into her report.
There was also a question submitted about German 1. The past 3 years, German 1 enrollment has ranged anywhere from 25 to 32. And so this year is a drop, so we'll be monitoring it closely to see if that's a trend, and if so, if we need to revisit the German program. But for right now, it seems like that could be an anomaly. We're not sure. So if you look at page 150 of the board packet, this is our summary chart of FTE allocated by department. And as you can see in some of the notes, as Dr. Skinkis said, core freshman, sophomore, and junior classes at all levels, regular honors and AP, were staffed at 25-1. So that's math and English. All science classes are already staffed at 25-1. And then Western Civ and Social Studies, both at the freshman and sophomore level, are also staffed at 25-1. There is an additional 0.2 FTE allocated to the Instructional Technology Coordinator position for next year, as we have another class that's in a one-to-one environment, and an additional 4.4 FTE allocated to literacy coaches for next year. Also, as I had stated earlier, in previous board meetings, the C team will not be running next year due to low enrollment. And then there was also a question submitted about some of the class sizes. So these average class sizes are based on what students have requested. So they're not based on when students are actually enrolled in the course. So that's why, for example, under wellness, you see that in the 25-1 section, the average is 30. That's also because there's only one class that's considered 25-1 in the wellness department.
So we're expecting a shakeout when things like Dr. Skinkis mentioned happens with conflicts.
Exactly. And even before that, we're sitting 2 below the caps, at least on the averages. On page 151, This is just some.
So if I'm reading this right, though, Kristen, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
Based on what the enrollment is right now, for applied arts, English, fine arts, math, science, the 25-to-1 classes, they're all in the 23 range. They're already one or two
Correct.
students below that. And the average for all 25-to-1s were below 24 right now.
Correct.
Okay.
And then for the 30-to-1s, they're all in 28 right now. There's only one, which is fine arts, is at 30.7. And so,
Is that the survey, or is that all everything together?
that's everything together.
So that's probably higher because of the fine arts survey class, which I'll touch on later.
Okay.
And then one thing we added for the board, based on some previous questions, the 3 boxes underneath the staffing summaries. So if you add the overall class average, this is including all the 25-to-1s, the 30-to-1s, and the 40-to-1s. Our class average is 27.22. If you took out the 40-to-1 classes, which are gym and just the band classes, we're down to 25.9. And if you just went in our core classes, math, science, English, and social science, we have an average class size of 25.3.
Thank you.
On page 151, we provided some additional information regarding the special education enrollment. And as you can see, our enrollment had been increasing over the years, and now it seemed to have leveled off. One thing, though, that I want to point out is in 2014-15, we had staffed the special education department based off of 173 students. Then over the summer, we had an increase of about 23 students, and we didn't allocate any additional FTE at that time. So we were understaffed in the special education department. So that explains the jump from 2014 to 2015 regards to FTE. And then the additional increase this year is due to some of the needs of the special education students. We're offering a few more small section classes. So those are like a math class or a science class offered only within the special education department. And then we are also offering co-taught health next year because we had test data that showed from the health classes that showed our special education students in those classes needed some additional support, and that's a graduation requirement as well.
So in the special ed, you dig a little deeper than just head count. You look and see more individualized need to see if you need more individualized support.
Yes, and those needs are outlined by the student's individual education
Okay.
plan. And so the chart underneath that shows classes that are over 20 but under the cap, just as an informational item for the board. There's a question about fall individual. That's a wellness class, and so it focuses on individual sports or sports that only have either one additional person or a small group. And then on page 152, we provided information about classes that are over the caps. And as Dr. Skinkis said earlier, these are just enrollment numbers, so they represent the number of students that selected a course. They're not necessarily the number of students that will be enrolled in the course. And part of that's due to conflicting out on when they're offered during the day. And so the top chart is classes that are only offered one period a day. And the bottom chart is offered on multiple periods a day. There was a question submitted about fine arts survey, and so fine arts survey is offered in groups of 4 because there's 4 rotations. There's music, visual arts, theater, and dance. So if we're going to add another section, we have to add a section of 4, which is why we decided to only offer 2 sections, which is the equivalent of 8 due to the rotations.
Do we still offer fine arts survey in the summer?
We do not. We have not for a few years now.
Okay, and nobody's asking for it, right? Okay.
Had trouble getting staffing, too.
Yeah, because we need to get 4 then, right?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Now, Kristen, this would still cause some panic to somebody watching that TV or someone that can misinterpret it. This is as of March. Last year, you presented similar data to the board, and I believe you had the guidance director come in the fall and speak to how many classes were running over the cap. And do you recall that information? Off the top of your head?
I do not, but I know that it was probably under 5.
Okay, so...
And they were mostly over by 1 student.
Okay, so when some of the people seeing this say, oh, we got a class at 34 or a class at 38, a lot of this will shake itself out once the master schedule starts to be developed.
Students either conflict out or they change their mind, or often a lot of the classes that are on the bottom of the chart are PE classes. So instead of getting, for some students, instead of getting their first choice, they'll get their second choice for PE.
Okay.
So we're at the preliminary stage where we're trying to plan for next year. Last meeting, last month, we had to, by law, tell certain staff members that they may not be back because, we're not a very good predictor of the future as to how many students we're going to have in the building. But there's always been a trend that students transfer in over the summer. And like you gave on the example on page 151, 23 additional students moved in the special education area, and you had to, did you have to add additional staff for those, or was that not?
We did not. It was
Okay.
very tight that year in terms of special education, but we did not.
Okay, so if another 30 move in over this summer because they find out we have good programs here, we won't know that until they actually register. And then if they actually register, then we would have to adjust our staffing levels to accommodate those students, right?
Correct. So we've accommodated for just general transfer students, but we typically do not accommodate for special education transfer students because their needs vary depending on the student, and we don't have significant trend patterns in regards to that.
But you
So-
do, I'm sorry.
So we could be adding people in that area over the summer or not adding anyone in that area. We just don't know.
Correct.
Sorry, Mike. You are able to get information on this special education need from our feeder schools though, right?
Yes,
So
we have that
you've
information.
adopted into the schedule. You just can't plan ahead for the unknown of transfer special ed students, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So I do need the board to approve and just so I know I thought somebody had verbally asked a question about literacy coaches. This is an intervention that Kristen and Ms. Greger, the assistant principal, have put into place, and that's where they specifically go and work with classroom teachers on reading and reading instruction and how to incorporate reading strategies to improve students' academic vocabulary and reading skills, comprehension skills throughout the day, which will directly impact hopefully some of our district goals.
I'll do the motion. Resolve that the Board of Education, Township High School District 2A, Cook County, Illinois, hereby approves in accordance with District Policy 6:31, minimum course enrollment, the list of courses for the 2016-2017 school year with projected enrollment below 20 students based on the current student enrollment data as presented in the March 8, 2016 Board Agenda Packet. Sorry, Mike.
Second.
Second, Mr. Walsh. Thank you, Mr. Jepson. Mary Ann, can you just put up the chart? I think it's on the next page of actually what we're approving. Is this what we're approving right there?
Correct. Exploring technology, pre-algebra, AP Calculus BC, and German 1.
All very important courses, and 3 of the 4 may very well be over 20.
Okay. Anything further from the board on this side?
Well, I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Certainly can.
He asked you a question.
Now that we're talking about class sizes, what if we were to cut the number of courses we offer and instead have kids in the study hall? Would that save money?
So one of the things that I did a study for the Board of Education on in my
3 years.
first year when I was here was the number of students that we have that take 7 classes. We offer the opportunity for students to take 7 classes throughout all 4 years. So technically, a student has an additional, I believe, 8 credits for graduation, 6 to 8 credits above graduation requirements. And one of the discussions that this board engaged in is, as I brought up that, as you offer all those electives and different opportunities for students, that does come with it as an expense of, staffing that. And so, at the time, the board wanted to make sure that this was a very elective-rich, and the kids had an opportunity to take classes. And so we did that, so we balanced it out throughout all classes. And that's how we came up with the 30 cap, and then we slowly started to work that cap size down for the core classes. Could you save money by cutting the elective offerings and just offer the graduation requirements? You could.
And I don't know if you were asking the question for illustrative purposes or not.
Well,
I'd
there's,
be strongly against cutting the course.
well, that's what I'm saying, there's a choice between, you could theoretically decrease the core class size, or you can cut electives, in a rough analysis. I just wanted to bring that out.
They need 22 credits to graduate, right, Chris? So if you took 5.5 courses a year, that's what you would need to graduate in 4 years, so.
Over 60% of our students take
Take
7.
6 or 7.
Seven, most of them 7.
Okay. And a lot of the rest take 6, right?
Correct.
Have we ever looked at how that compares to other schools around here?
Kevin did when he did that
Back
study.
then, I think we did.
You
I
did?
think he had data on other schools, too.
Yeah, it's going back a couple of years, but yeah.
If you wanted to save money, you would cut off the last period and then penalize the students who want to get a robust education, but you wouldn't have to fund that last period of the day, right? That's how one way would be, but I think the board,
Right.
when that was presented to us as an option, said no.
Right.
We should offer the kids 7 periods a day, and how many take 7 periods a day?
Over 60%.
So over 60% of our kids take advantage of that.
Kristen, do we know if that helps the GPA of our students because they have opportunity to take more courses?
I don't have data that I could necessarily point to that, but yes,
Depends on the grades
I
they
think the
get.
Yeah,
more
right.
experiences
Could
that
be worse.
student, right, it could be worse, but I think the more
Yes, no.
experiences that we can expose students to into the classroom, the better opportunities they have for more learning experiences.
And I think some of our surrounding districts that have had financial difficulties had to cut electives, at least for a while. The
Right.
Mortons, I believe, had to cut electives for a while.
Correct.
Anything over here on this side? Are you ready for the vote? Laura, John? Okay, Mary Ann?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Sini?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.